Well, welcome to part 7 of our tutorial where we're rewriting KidsCanCode's Pygame shoot 'em up into Monogame, Love2D and refactored Pygame. This is the Monogame version today. The code for it is in my GitHub. I just find the right one under episode 7 shields, and obviously you'll be choosing the Monogame version for the code here. So let's get that into place and we'll show you what this one's doing. Fire that up. So you'll see at the top left hand side there is a green bar. At the moment it's full, and if I deliberately let myself get hit, you get a sound of the crash again, and the shield bar starts to reduce. When I eventually die, the sound of my death will be rumbled, and then it will, as soon as that sound finishes, then the game finishes. There we go, you heard that kind of final rumble, and then we disappear. So some changes made today to allow that to happen. First thing to change was in the player. We've got, if they weren't there already, there's now a public static boolean value alive, which is set to true, and we have got a shield. Here we are, public static float shield is set to 100. So this is exactly the same as it is on the Pygame Love2D versions. We've got a setting of 100 for our shield, and alive is true. That's the only changes to the player class. In shmup main we have got some minor changes to the audio. I can't remember whether I did this last time. This was to reduce the volume of each of the sound effects and the background music. So in Monogame, in order to get the best out of sound, we use these sound effect instances where you kind of load in the sound effects and then set up some sound effect instances. It seems to be a very, very similar thing to the Pygame, which I've recently just discovered, where you have Pygame channels, and the channels are then used to play the sound. So I get the feeling this is kind of Monogame's way of doing the same thing. So having these instances gives you more control, such as the volume. So what we've done, added extra, is while making up the instances, for each instance that we've added, just reducing the sound volume down to 0.2 of its original value, and then the background is added in as a song, so it can't come in with the sound effects because this is a separate thing in Monogame. And then again the media player volume has been set down. 0.2 seems to work okay. Obviously you can play with that and set it up as you like. So that's some minor changes to the sound effects. Now the most important change here is when a mob hits the player, we want to, instead of just instantly dying, we want to let the shield do its job and protect us for a while. So there's a bit of a change here in the way this works, is that just ignoring this top section for a moment, if we get hit, if the mob hits us, then the shooting sound is stopped, the shield is reduced in strength by the radius of the mob. So a large mob takes more off of our shield than a smaller mob, which makes sense. And then there's a check to see whether the shield value is less than or equal to 0, and if it is, that means we're dead. So the player alive is set to false, and then the sound effect instance die is played. So die is rumble.og, so it's that sort of low frequency rumble when the player is destroyed. If we're not dead, then we just play the normal explosion sound, but I don't yes, that would play once while we're still alive and being hit by mobs. Then we play that kind of explosion sound. So if we die, we play this kind of die sound. So next frame 60th of a second later, we're checking, is the player still alive? If so, update as normal. If not, if that die state is stopped, in other words, has it finished, which is a kind of another way of saying, is it still playing? So if the sound has stopped, then the game will quit. So it allows that that sound to continue until it stops itself. Once it's stopped, then the game state, so this might run for a few frames before the game state quit is set. So that's how that works, and allows us to stay there for a fraction of a second while the explosion sound is going on. So on this one I didn't break out of the for loop as I did on but I think we could just, for safety, add that in. It doesn't seem to make a big difference. It was just to prevent being hit by double mobs. Let's just test to make sure that's working, and we'll deliberately die. 1. Okay, you heard the rumble and I'm gone, so probably didn't make any difference, but just in case. So that's the way the sounds are handled now when the mob is hit. Now the shield is a new class, so let me show you that. So full class, static class this time, again because there's only one shield. So in the Pygame version I used a proper full class because I'd already been playing around with static classes in Pygame, and they're not so easy to handle because of all this global value nonsense. So I left the Pygame version as a full class, but here of course we can use a static class as normal because they behave themselves perfectly. So what we've set up in here is the idea of drawing 3 rectangles. In the Pygame version there were just 2. In the Lua version there were 2, and I kind of reused 1. So in the Monogame version we've gone full out and we're actually going to draw 3 rectangles. So why do we need 3? Well, one is the outline rectangle. That is the white line box that goes around the outside. Then we've got the fill rectangle, which is the one that fills up the inside so that you don't get the pictures of meteors flowing behind it. It just sort of makes a nice blank surface there. And then finally you've got the rectangle that actually draws the shield's value. So I've done it in 3 completely discrete rectangles this time, which I hadn't done in the other 2 languages. So in the update value we're checking what value the player shield is, and then if it's greater less than 0 we set it to 0, and then the percentage is set to the value, and then the width of the fill rectangle is percent over 100. So that will make a rectangle of the whatever width is left. So that's our fill rectangle. And then the bar rectangle, I may have said this the wrong way around when I was describing it a moment ago, the bar rectangle is one that stays solid. So then we're just drawing these 3 rectangles. So we draw the rectangle for the bar in its fill color, which do we specify it here? Yes, here I've used a new color 0012. In the Love2D version I actually put that in the shared folder. I don't think I've done that here, so again some minor differences. No, I haven't declared a new color apart from this green, so it doesn't matter, you can do it how you like, but in this case I've actually created a new color here, which is a very dark blue. So that's what's drawn there. Then the rectangle that's drawn for the value of the shield is done in the shared .green, because color.green, the color built-in color.green, is dark green. This is a bright green. And then finally we're drawing the rectangle on the outside in the line colour, which is colour.white. So that's how this one works. It draws three distinct different rectangles rather than kind of reusing the fill rectangle which I did in the Lure Love2D. So that's how the shield class works. So it's very, very simple. It just creates three rectangles, works out where their positions are and draws them. So let's see how that's implemented. So if we go into shmup main, we don't need to create an instance of it because it's a static class, so it won't be dealt with in the load functions here. Load content, let's just check. No, there's no mention of the shield in there. The update values here is once we've checked the mobs and checked the players, we then update the shield with whatever value the player shield has at that time. And then when we're ready to draw it, we just do the shield draw, and that takes care of that. So two very simple changes to the main file here. So let's just run that again. There we go. So as you see, as we're hit, the shield value decreases, and when we're dead, it goes down to nothing, and that's it, game over. Okay, so that's the monogame version of shields with the improved sounds of the explosion when the player